What if I told you that America's greatest story of freedom was never fully told? What if entire pages of history were lost, erased, not by accident, but by design? This is not just a story about slavery. It is a story about secrets, about betrayal, about truth buried so deep that only now, centuries later, it begins to surface. We are taught Harriet Tubman was the Moses of her people, a brave woman who led enslaved men and women to freedom through the Underground Railroad. But here is the first mystery. Why do we know so little about her actual missions? Where are the maps, the letters, the detailed accounts of how she worked? The answer is chilling. Those records once existed, and then they vanished. For decades, Tubman's story was told only in fragments. A heroic whisper here, a children's tale there. But the full truth, the truth of a woman who was more than a guide, was scattered across dusty archives, dismissed by historians, or erased from textbooks. Because Harriet Tubman was more than a conductor. She was a spy, a strategist, a freedom fighter who led an armed raid during the Civil War, liberating more than 700 enslaved people in a single night. But ask yourself, why was that story missing from the history books we grew up reading? The mystery deepens. In 2017, a photograph surfaced. Harriet Tubman as a young woman. Sharp eyes, determined face. Not the frail, wrinkled grandmother shown in every textbook. No, this was a warrior, a fighter. And the question is simple. If one photograph could vanish for over a century, what else has been hidden from us? The answer began to appear only recently, when the National Park Service started restoring Tubman's original Underground Railroad records. Torn papers were cleaned. Faded ink was revealed. Maps long thought lost were made visible again. It was as if the shadows themselves were being forced to give up their secrets. But with every restored record comes another question. If these documents were buried for so long, how many more stories have been erased from American history? The Underground Railroad was not just a path north. It was a living network, a coded system of secret messages, lanterns in windows, quilts with hidden patterns, songs that carried directions in their lyrics. These were never written down, because to write them was to risk death. Tubman carried them in her mind. And when she died, so much of that secret language died with her. But not every mission ended in triumph. Some ended in betrayal. Informants lurked in the shadows. Men willing to sell the names of fugitives for gold. How many journeys were cut short by a single whispered secret? How many lives lost because someone turned against freedom? The truth is, we will never know. Because those names were buried. Those failures erased. History prefers to tell us of victories, but not of the nights when hope was betrayed. And then, the final mystery. Harriet Tubman lived to the age of 91. She died in 1913, but she left behind no memoir. No complete written record of her own words. Her life was pieced together from fragments, from letters, from memories kept alive by those who believed in her. So we are left to ask, did Harriet fail, or did she plant a seed? Because though her rebellion against slavery was crushed again and again, her story whispered on. And now, as her hidden records are restored, her name rises once more, echoing through generations. The truth is this. Harriet Tubman was not erased. She was hidden, and history itself is finally giving her back. But if one woman's story can be buried for 200 years, how many more truths are still locked away, waiting to be found? This is not just Harriet's story. This is America's story, a nation founded on freedom, built on slavery. And the question that lingers is this. How much of our past is truth, and how much has been rewritten? Harriet Tubman reminds us that freedom is not just history. It is a legacy, and legacies cannot be destroyed. They can only be delayed. So remember her name. Remember the mysteries that were hidden, and ask yourself, what else is still in the shadows? Because the greatest rebellion is the truth that refuses to die.